If you're playing Lost Ark and you want to know how to get massive bonuses for your class, whether it be supporting or DPSing, you need to know and use engravings. So in this video, we're going to teach you all about them and how you can get them and explain basically how they work. So do make sure to click like down below and subscribe for the other guides and other Lost Ark videos on the channel. So first up, let's talk about what are engravings. Think about engravings as perks with 3 different levels of power depending on how many engraving points you have for that particular engraving. Each engraving can have up to 15 points, with levels 1, 2 and 3 being unlocked per 5 points you have for that engraving. So for instance, having 6, 7, 8 or 9 points in an engraving will actually only give you the level 1 bonus, but once you hit 10 it will unlock level 2, and then once you hit 15 it would unlock level 3. There are 2 types of engravings that you need to know about: general engravings that every class can use, but there are also class specific engravings that only your class can use. These engravings come with 2 variants per class and are super important for how you will plan and play your build. For example, the Sorceress class has a class engraving called Igniter, which upgrades her class identity Arcane Rupture ability to reduce cooldowns when activated and offer a massive 25% crit chance and 50% crit damage while active. However, the other engraving for the Sorceress is called Reflux, which instead disables that class identity Arcane Rupture skill in exchange for a constantly active passive 16% damage buff and a 10% cooldown reduction. This makes for 2 very different playstyles, one focusing on massive burst damage, with the other focusing on mobility and consistent DPS, and all classes have their own 2 class engravings and are mostly quite different and promote 2 very different playstyles. These class-specific engravings become a very core part of your build later on in the endgame, so are very important to know about them and to be utilising them as you go forwards. On top of all of this, there are also red-coloured negative engravings that will instead reduce your stats by a set amount for each level that you fill. This is important because the different sources of engraving points will also come with some points in one of these negative engraving perks. So now you know all the different types of engravings, let's talk about where you get them. There are different gear pieces that grant you these engraving points. These include all of your accessory slot items, and these can also include your class engraving points. But there's also ability stones that will give you a lot of these engraving points. These will, however, not include your class specific engravings, and if you want to learn more about the ability stones and how best to use the percentages in your advantage in order to get the most points on them, we already have a video on the channel explaining all of that for you guys. The next source of engraving points is from engraving recipes. There are 2 types of these engraving recipes, which are battle and class recipes. These correspond with the general or class specific engravings that you can learn. These recipes unlock the ability to actually equip different engraving effects on your character on the 2 slots below the weapon slot on your character page. These engravings are also account wide, so you can actually use these on any character once you've learnt them, but of course the class specific ones will only work on those specific classes. Each of the engraving recipes that you can learn will have a rarity shown by the colours: green, blue, purple and orange, and to unlock each of these levels you have to have learnt the previous rarity, and learning each stage of these rarities requires reading 20 recipes of that rarity, and each rarity that you learn will give you an extra 3 points on top of the last. So green will give you 3, blue will give you 6, purple will give you 9, and orange will give you 12 points. These engraving recipes can be obtained through various different sources, from farming chaos dungeons for tokens in order to exchange them, to doing various island activities that come up on the calendar, to also just exploring particular islands out in the world that reward you with engraving recipes for the quests you complete while on those islands. Essentially, a lot of the activities that you already do as you play will reward you with these engraving recipes. You can also, of course, buy them on the marketplace, but you do get them just through playing and doing the things that you're probably going to be doing anyway. If you know any extra ways to get these recipes, please let us know in the comments down below. And if we taught you something new in this video, click like down below and subscribe while you're at it. And do click the video on screen now if you want to learn more about Lost Ark, because we've got you covered with plenty of tips, guides, and all that good stuff.